Let's see. Who is GH? Said it they first. What's up, TT? What's
What up,
up,
TT?
GH? What's up,
Lord,
Lords?
good day. How y'all doing?
Got a little confused trying to do something new. Sorry about being late.
But we were here. We were here.
Yeah, we
Just
were on time.
yeah, but the link didn't do the right thing.
Yeah. All right. So here we go. Uh Genesis 19. Let's see.
It's gonna be really hard to read. Well, no, it's not. But every time I read Genesis 19, I always want to run the comparison to Judges 19
I think you
because
should.
because it's just such it's damn near word for word. It's weird. It's like
Yeah.
reading the same chapter again. It's the weirdest thing. It's the
Yeah.
weirdest thing.
Okay. I think we should. Let's see. Let's go ahead and get it started. I see people starting to roll up in here. What's up, Lisa? What's up,
So this,
Pioneer, Mr. Pioneer? Slowly but surely, we coming up in the into the house. All right. Let's
all right.
see.
Is my damn internet cutting up again? Hold on. Yeah, it is. Let me see. I don't know what's been going on with my router, man.
Are y'all able to see that? Is that like? Can I like make the? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. It's bigger. I'm loving this big ass screen I got next to me now. What's up, Miss?
Yeah,
Huh?
you got a new
What's up,
screen?
Miss Shirley? Yeah. I'm getting my setup together. Miss Charlene in the house. Huh?
This is so crazy because it's saying that my router should be working just fine, but it is not. And I do not understand why. I got to call somebody to figure this out.
No Yahweh is your. Oh my gosh, Bash.
Huh?
Your name.
I have to keep it spicy.
What's up, Jazz? What's up, T Mac? Divinely autistic in the house. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Divinely Autistic. There ain't nothing but a little lip gloss. As Chicago say, where your lip gloss at?
All right, looks like I'm in here. Let's see. Let's see. I should have. My router should be working. Okay. All right. You pull up Genesis 19. I'm going to pull up Judges.
Okay. What's up? What's up, Mr.
And
Yehoshua? You gonna stop? Okay, so as I read, are you gonna stop and be like, okay, here's the similarity?
internet will act right. Hold on, bro. It's moving wild slow. Yeah. But that's the hope. That's my plan. I'm gonna
Okay.
restart my router. Hold on. Let me
All
start
right.
reading.
While Bash gets
Go ahead, start reading.
get the you sure you want me to you don't want me to wait?
No. Because it's gonna be chunks that we can.
Okay. All right. So it says the two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the
And
gateway
I
of
can do.
huh?
I have a paper Bible. I got one. I got a paper Bible.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. The two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. He said, please, my lord, turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you can rise early and go on your way. They said, no, we will spend the night in the square. But he urged them strongly. So they turned aside to him and entered his house. And he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people to the last man surrounded the house. And they called to Lot, what are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we may know them. Lot went out of the door to the men, shut the door after him, and said, I beg you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Look, I have two daughters who have not known a man. Let me bring them out to you and do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof. But they replied, stand back. And they said, this fellow came here as an alien, and he would play the judge. Now we would deal worse with you than with them. Then they pressed hard against the man, Lot, and came near the door to break it down. But the men inside reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. And they struck with blindness the men who were at the door of the house, both small and great, so that they were unable to find the door. Then the men said to Lot, have you anyone else here, sons in law, sons, daughters, or anyone you have in the city? Bring them out of the place, for we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against this people has become great before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. So Lot went out and said to his sons and daughters who were to marry his daughter. Oh, I'm sorry, and said to his sons in law who were to marry his daughters, up, get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city. But he seemed to his sons in law to be jesting. When morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, get up, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or else you will be consumed in the punishment of the city. But he lingered. So the men seized him and his wife and his two daughters by the hand, the Lord being merciful to him, and they brought him out and left him outside the city. When they had brought them outside, they said, flee for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the hills, or else you will be consumed. And Lot said to them, oh, no, my lords, your servant has found favor with you, and you have shown me great kindness and saving my life. But I cannot flee to the hills, for fear the disaster will overtake me and I die. Look, that city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my life will be saved. He said to him, very well, I grant you this favor too, and will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I can do nothing until you arrive there. Therefore, the city was called Zor, and the sun had risen on the earth when Lot came to Zor. Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from the Lord out of heaven, and overthrew the cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground. But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord, and he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain, and saw the smoke and of the land going up like a smoke of furnace. So it was that when God destroyed the cities of the plain, God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had settled. The shameful origin of Moab and Ammon. Now Lot went up out of Zor and settled in the hills with his two daughters, for he was afraid to stay in Zor. So he lived in a cave with his two daughters. And the firstborn said to the younger, our father is old, and there is not a man on earth to come in to us after the manner of all the world. Not a man on earth, huh? Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, so that we may preserve offspring through our father. So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. He did not know when she lay down or when she rose. On the next day, the firstborn said to the younger, look, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine tonight also. Then you go in and lie with him, so that we may preserve offspring through our father. So they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger rose and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she rose. Thus both the daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father, and Lot was not at fault. The firstborn bore a son and named him Moab, and he is the ancestor of the Moabites to this day. The younger also bore a son and named him Ben Amini, and he is the ancestor of the Ammonites to this day. Oh, I added that he didn't know. Like literally, this reads like, "Oh, Lot's not at fault. Lot didn't do this." Don't you blame Lot. Are you on stage?
I
Oh,
am.
there you
Can you?
go. Okay. Okay, I
Okay.
see you now.
Did the weirdest thing about this chapter, and I'm gonna read you the duplicate in just a second. But the weirdest thing about this chapter is I can't quite figure out what God was judging Sodom and Gomorrah for.
Hmm.
I can't quite figure it out. Some people would say it's for the lack of hospitality, and I get that, but I don't. I'm gonna tell you why I don't think that's the answer. Well, the reason I don't think that's the answer is because Lot's daughters were not hospitable to him here.
Yeah.
Um, it can't be the grape because if this story is true, then they got this man drunk and took advantage of him. It,
I like doesn't Ezekiel 16 or Ezekiel 23 say why?
let's look and see. I don't know. Let's read it. Let's read Ezekiel 23. And I want to let's flip over there. What does it say in Ezekiel 23? You know what verse we're looking at? We read the whole thing.
No, we don't have to read the whole thing. I think it is uh let's see. Uh, it might be hold on. Yeah, it's here.
This is a hole in a hole book for sure. Combine the horns, land of his Syrians.
I think it's verse 24, is it? Then shall come up with another chair tower.
Judgment to
Mm,
judgment, jealousy against thee, sons and daughters, Egypt.
maybe it's Ezekiel 16 and 23. Maybe that's what I'm thinking about.
Let me get back over there.
See?
16, 23.
Uh,
And it came to pass after
yeah.
all thy wickedness, woe unto thee, said the Lord God.
Uh-huh.
But what
It's,
was the wickedness?
hold on, let's see. Uh, wait, that part says Philistines. How sick is your heart?
Let me look and see if I can just find.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. Here you go.
Okay,
It starts at verse 43.
43. Okay, let me get down there. Okay. All right.
Let
Because
me make
thou hast
sure.
not remembered the days of thy youth. Is this it? Ezekiel 16, 43.
Is it 16:43? Yeah.
Because thou hast not remembered the days of thy youth, but hast fretted me in all these things. Behold, therefore I will also recompense thy way upon thine head, saith the Lord God, and thou shalt not commit this lewdness above all thine abominations. Behold, everyone that uses proverbs shall use this proverb against thee, saying, as the mother, so is her daughter. Thou art thy mother's daughter. That loatheth her husband and her children, and thou art the sister of thy sisters, which loathes their husband and their children. Your mother was an Hittite, and your father an Amorite, and thine elder sister is Samaria. This one?
Yeah, like your big sister Samaria, who lived with her daughters to the north of you, your little sister who lived to the south of you is Sodom with her sisters. You not only followed their ways and acted according to their abominations, within a very little time you are more corrupt than they in all your ways. As I live, says the Lord God, your sister Sodom and her daughters have not done as you and your daughters have done. So here the God is saying Israel did worse than Sodom.
Yeah, but what did Sodom do?
This was the guilt of your sister Sodom.
Yeah,
She and her daughters had pride, access of food, and prosperous ease, but did not aid the poor and needy. They were haughty and did abominable things before me. Therefore, I removed them when I saw it. So
pride.
that's what he claims. Pride, greedy. Like I see a lot of jealousy in this book. Like the Israelites, like the stories they're jealous of other kingdoms that are doing well. And so if these kingdoms are doing well and they're not like sharing with the Israelites, then they deserve to die. Like Tyre, like the city state Tyre, like Egypt, like Babylon. So Sodom's sin was not sharing their wealth, I think.
Okay. But they did share their wealth with Lot. Lot was living prosperous in Sodom.
Well, Israel, like they had a tendency to want to take over somebody else's land. Like it was all about going into lands and taking it. Like they didn't like the king of the city state Tyre because they said, "Oh, you think you more intelligent than Daniel? You think you more anointed than Daniel? You deserve to die. We're gonna ask, the God of Israel to come in and destroy your kingdom. And He's gonna bring you down." Like the scripture that they used to say that is Lucifer. That's their
Hmm.
response to, them getting upset that he said he was more anointed than Daniel.
But is that true of Sodom? Like what? Like okay, yeah. But like
Well,
in the
like what
storyline
other
in Genesis,
like
Abraham
what
wasn't trying to move to Sodom, right?
no,
It
but
wasn't
it
that
when it
Abraham
talks
said,
about Sodom,
"Oh,
think about when Lot chose Sodom.
yeah,
Lot chose the green pastures, the plentiful waters, right?
hmm
Uh and then Abraham chose what was not, he chose the less uh uh
the uglier part, right?
fruitful,
Yeah,
yeah,
wasn't as
because that
fruitful,
was the promise, right? So it's
right?
them, it's that they were wealthy already, with it because it like honestly, it doesn't say who the gods of Sodom and Gomorrah were,
Right,
right? Now, and if you do research, it says that it looks like the gods of Sodom and Gomorrah were the gods of the Canaanites. And here, Yahweh is saying that Sodom and Gomorrah is Israel's sister, it's Ephraim's sister,
yeah,
you know. So like I think they serve the same God. So it's not that they were, idolatrous. It's
right.
that
That's
yeah.
why it confuses me because okay, it's not that nothing in the story says Abraham wanted to be in Sodom, right? Nothing in the story. Abraham had riches. Abraham was a very wealthy man,
Mhm.
right? According to the story so far, Abraham's a wealthy man. He lives on the other side. Lot just wanted to live down in Sodom because it was green, blah, 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 blah. That's just the way the land was, right? It's not that Abraham asked Sodom for help and they said, "We will not help you, Abraham. We will not share our bread with you," right? As a matter of fact, when, I mean, I guess it was Lot's, this is kind of why I want to read Judges 19, but it was when the men came to town, Lot met him in the square and said, "Hey, come on in." They was like, "Nah, we don't want to come in." He's like, "No, no, no, come on in." Right? That didn't seem abnormal to Lot, right? I think this Ezekiel scripture is kind of a retrofit to that. Keep in mind, Ezekiel wasn't at Sodom, so he's just kind of saying, "Hey, this is how I see it," but
No,
I
wait, this
don't.
is a prophecy. He's saying Yahweh is saying this to him.
Yeah, yeah, but
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, when I say this is how I see it, he's saying God said that, but I'm saying, what is he reading to get that? Is this just a spiritual revelation to him that, oh, they were prideful? Because it doesn't say that in the book, right? So if this is a later revelation retrofitting back to, oh, well, back in Sodom, they were this way.
Yeah, like think about the like Abraham deciding to go. Lot ends up getting caught up in Sodom in a war that has absolutely nothing to do with the Israelites, right? Because
Right.
Lot is living in Sodom,
Living in
right?
Sodom.
They were
Yeah.
under the rule of Caledonmar for 13 years, right?
Right.
And Sodom was doing well, and then you have five nations that just decided to come up against Caledonmar, right?
Right.
And then Abraham has to go and save Lot from Sodom. So like it's just honestly, it just set Sodom up from the beginning to look like, oh, this is a place that the God of Israel needs to destroy. But their only sin is being a wealthful, prosperous uh place that like them deciding to just all of a sudden go to Lot's house, who was an alien amongst them. It's like, oh, he's an alien in our town, and now he's gonna be a judge. Now he's gonna judge us. Like we let him come live in, and now he's gonna put himself in the place of a judge to judge what we want to do to these two strangers. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah, but is that the okay? If their sin is,
Pride.
I don't know what's prideful about that, but how is that like what's
Because they
prideful?
like they're like, so basically they're saying that Lot doesn't have a right to judge their moral characters, right? Like
He
their
doesn't,
societal culture. Huh?
and he doesn't.
Say that again?
He doesn't.
Right, but to the God of Israel, because Abraham and Lot, like they're of the Israelite, they do, right? Like they're the moral objective. They're set apart. They're different. Like Lot is the only one in the whole city that speaks out and says, "This is wrong, guys." Like it's trying to set. It's basically trying to say that the Israelites were like the moral standard of.
This is why I don't think that. This is why I'm saying I don't understand. Because if they are the moral standard, if it is wrong, if what Lot is saying is, hey, this is not right and wrong, and so God is judging y'all because this particular thing is
Well,
not right
he's
and
not
wrong.
saying God is judging them. They're
I'm saying
they're
the book is
saying,
saying, not that Lot
yeah,
is saying. Yeah, the book is saying God is judging them because this thing that you're doing right here is wrong, right? And then even in Ezekiel, God is saying, you have done worse than that.
right, yeah.
What
He's
what
saying you've done
if
worse
God is
than.
judging them for this, and then you did this couldn't have been that bad.
Right. The same thing with the Canaanites, right? Like the
Right.
Israelites did worse than Canaan. They didn't get the same judgment. Like that's why I said like it kind of like reading these stories from like a one-sided perspective, right? It puts Israel into position like, oh, they're first off, they're like many gods, or they're God's sons, they're God's chosen. They get whooped like a parent whoops a child, but the neighbor's child gets it worse when they act up. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. But I think that's the part that's weird to me because how am I saying? Okay, remember I did this video about how why is God always walking around beating up on his children, and they always say when you're God's children you get it worse, right? Because you're special, right? He beats on you worse. Well, that's not true. One, two. I'm trying to figure out what exactly it was that was the tipping point because immediately following this episode in Sodom, the two daughters go off and do a bomb. Like what? What is happening here? This is crazy. Okay. God does not judge that, right? He does not judge that. He's all right with that, right? And that's completely against the commandment, thou shalt not approach thy father. You don't do that. Right? Although that law wasn't in existence yet, but but then again, no law was in existence at the time, right? So I don't know. Yes, Ezekiel could come in later and say, "Hey, it was pride." Okay, that's what Ezekiel says. That's what God told Ezekiel. But what? Like, there is nothing in this story that indicates pride, right? God had made a judgment about this city prior to us running back into Lot. He
Yeah,
had
so
told,
but
hey,
pride, like for me,
look,
pride isn't the only thing though. He says like access, like they had access of food and prosperous ease, but did not aid the poor and the needy. They were haughty, right? The same
pride, yeah.
things they say about the city state of Tyre and Nebuchadnezzar and Egypt. Like, oh, you think you a god? God's gonna destroy you because you are immortal. Like the city state of Tyre was like, I am a god. He spoke back to them. Like I don't know, just like for me, I just see a pattern of the Israelites, you know, saying that their God is going to destroy nations that are successful and wealthy, and not sharing with them. Um, that's the sin. Like, right, like you wealthy, prosperous city,
But
you're
who didn't they share with is my question.
who
I
didn't
see
the
that.
Babylonians?
I see what Ezekiel's saying. Right. I'm not saying I'm saying
It is
as
a
a
lot.
retrofit to the story, some hundreds of quote unquote hundreds of years later, Ezekiel, I mean, looks back at that story and says, okay, back in Sodom, they did this. Okay, cool. But I don't see them doing this. I see Ezekiel saying they did that.
Yeah, we don't see it. We don't get a lot from Sodom's side.
No, 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 I don't even
I
get
don't
this
even
from
think Sodom and
Israel's
Gomorrah.
side. Not even
Huh?
not like in the story, it doesn't say they were haughty and someone asked them for bread and they said no.
No, yeah, I know that. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. All it says, like, if you look at the fact that there were like Lot, first off, Lot is an alien in Sodom, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's already a sojourner,
Mm-hmm.
right, in Sodom.
Yep.
And like, so when the two men come in, the Sodom is like, oh wait, we already have one alien living amongst us. Here are two more, and then he done brought him into his house. So they're like, bring him out so that we can, because these are two aliens that we don't know nothing about living amongst us. And then Lot is like, no, 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 don't do that. Take my daughters, don't touch the men because I'm responsible for them because they're in my house now. And then
Mm-hmm.
the men of Sodom is like, oh, this dude right here is a alien. Like we let him live amongst us. Now he putting himself in the place of a judge. Like now he want to judge how we deal with foreigners when we took mercy on him.
Right. And
And that
is
could be
that the
seen as
wrongdoing?
that. No, it's saying that Lot is the one who called out that that is wrong to do, right? That they didn't share with the foreigners who came in. They wanted to kick them out. They wanted to sodomize them. They didn't want them amongst them. So like that's what Lot was saying. Like, don't do this. This is wrong. Like it's trying to set Lot up like Lot is the sound voice here, the moral, you know, the example of moral superiority. Share your wealth. Share. These are foreigners. Lot goes out and it's like, don't stay in the square. Don't stay in the street. Come and stay in my house. And they're like, no, it's okay. We're gonna stay in the square. He's like, no, 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 please come. Like he's showing hospitality.
He's
And
being
then
hospitable. Fair, fair, fair.
yeah,
I'm granting that.
yeah. He did the same thing that Abraham did. That's why I said like the story of Abraham in Genesis 18 is setting it up for the Sodom story. Like you can see Abraham was so hospitable. He got 36 pounds of wheat, made the cakes, 2 cows. Wash your feet, sit down. Abraham stands up while they're eating. It's trying to show that Israel is hospitable. Israel cares about the people because they're not greedy. They don't store up wealth and not share with the poor. And Sodom and Gomorrah, that was their great sin. Like,
Eh, I don't see it. Keep in mind. Well, I don't. This ain't even really an argument. It's just this is just a perspective. Keep in mind, if Lot is living in Sodom and had lived there for years, he was doing well. You don't do well in a place where people aren't hospitable to you.
no, that's why I'm saying they showed him grace,
Right.
right? And let
Okay.
him
So
stay
think
there.
about this. Think
And
about
he
what I'm
brings
saying.
in two extra aliens.
But think about what I'm saying. God was coming to judge them already.
Right.
Skip what happened when the aliens got there. The
Hmm.
aliens are there for the judgment.
Right.
Right. Okay. All right. So it's whether they did that to the aliens or not. God was all the purpose in the aliens being there, and the aliens say so. Hey,
Mhm.
bro, I need you to get out of here because we're about to burn this place down. They were coming to burn the place down
Yeah.
before anybody in the city ever said anything about them.
Yeah, because it's like what it's trying to say is like when aliens would come into Sodom and Gomorrah, like when foreigners would come in, they're basically is setting up that they did not share with the poor. They didn't
What they
want.
did, because Lot was there. That's what I'm saying. Lot was there.
Yeah.
Lot was a foreigner who was doing well.
Right.
God had already decided while Lot was there doing well amongst these people as a foreigner,
Hmm.
right? That the Sodomites were being kind to him. They nobody was pressing him, right?
Yeah.
He was doing just fine.
Right.
These people were coming to judge this city. To judge
Right.
them for what?
Yeah, it's trying to show that they like because Lot was uh you know with Abraham and God, like he got mercy, right, in Sodom. right? And that's why they let him stay. Like they showed mercy on Lot and allowed Lot to stay as an alien. But all the other aliens, like they were not hospitable to other foreigners, is what they're trying to say. Like they showed Lot grace.
But okay, fair. But if the reason he's getting grace and mercy is because he is a child of God, right? Because he is special, right? And
Mm.
God knows that, right? Like that. This is why he's receiving this mercy because God made sure that he received the mercy,
I
right?
don't know. I don't know if they're saying God made sure he did it. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't say that he got grace. It doesn't say that he got grace because he was related to Abraham. It doesn't say that at all. I mean, we could imply that, but it doesn't say why he received such mercy. But
His
we
literal
definitely know that he was prosperous there, right?
hold on.
So we can imply, However, I'm saying that in this story, as of so far in Genesis, there is nothing that has been done other than God just decided they're not righteous, right? I'm gonna go judge them because they are right. He didn't say what they did, just that their sins had reached heaven. Well, what was the sin, right? What if the sin was? If the sin was you guys are prosperous, okay, all right. You want me to go broke? If the sin was because you're prosperous, you're proud. Okay, perhaps. Okay, let me leave pride out here for a second. Leave pride out here for just a second. All right, boom. If the sin was, well, it can't be that you're not hospitable. It can't be that. Well, I guess it could be, but that's weird because the only example that we only see two examples of strangers in Sodom, which is Lot and his folk and these two men. Now, unless you telling me that when Lot got there, he got down, so they was like, all right, he cool with us now. Now that we hunched on him, he can have a house, right? They either hunched on him when he got to town or they didn't, and either way, he was fine, right? If
Mhm.
that was the saying, hey, you made Lot hunch on y'all when he got to town, okay, maybe, but that's not something that's in the story. Right.
Yeah.
So I only see two examples. So I don't see this like sin of Sodom. I don't see it. Unless we're saying, well, God just didn't like them because they was rich. All right. Well, Abraham was rich. Lot was rich. Right? Or God didn't like them because they couldn't share. Abraham and Lot couldn't share. That's why they split apart. Right?
Mhm.
So whatever this thing was, now Abraham was hospitable, fair enough. You're right. When the folk came to town, or when Yahweh came to town. Now keep in mind, Abraham knew this was God himself, though. But okay. When God came to town, he did. Hey, man, cook the 36 pounds a week. We're going to feed them. We're going to sit and chat, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that was hospitable. Lot had the same practice. He was hospitable. Two strangers. They weren't necessarily hospitable with each other. Again, if they had been so hospitable, they could have stayed together. But they couldn't stay together. They was too rich to stay together. All right? Well, if the same thing is true in Sodom, right, then what is God judging Sodom for? I tell you, when they leave Sodom, the girls go off and grape their daddy. If that's how the story is being told, keep in mind this is one side of the story, but okay. If I'm taking this as the literal truth, they get the man drunk, he passes out, they both hunch on him because they made up some story that there were no more men on the planet, although they moved into a city. Okay. The and I bring all this up to ultimately to talk about when people say the thing objective morality, right? Because if there is a thing that is wrong objectively, then it is objectively wrong. Like there is nothing that happened in Sodom that I could not see a version of amongst Abraham and Lot. And God did not come to destroy Abraham and Lot. This just seems like favoritism, not judgment. And what happens when you have a situation of favoritism and not judgment is you have to find some reason, right, to justify in your own mind, well, why did I do that? Right? No different than there are some abusive parents out there that say things like, "Oh, I'm doing this for your own good." No, you're not. You're doing this because you're mean, and you're justifying it by saying it will help you. But this will not help me. You are just being mean, and it seems like that's what's going on here. Like it's not that Sodom did this, or at least I do not see in the story. It's not that Sodom did anything that was so outlandish. God just didn't like them.
Yeah, that's why I said like the only thing I see is jealousy. Like when they say because they literally told like now you want to judge us like we're gonna deal with you worse than we did them now. Like that's what they tell him that like we're gonna deal with you worse than we gonna deal with them because you try to judge us now because you're trying to
Right,
judge our behavior.
right.
Yeah, not saying that like God is gonna judge them like because a lot was like no don't do this. They like bruh, like you are alien living amongst us. Now you want to open your mouth and judge our behavior? Now we gonna do to you worse than we gonna do to them.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that they didn't have that Sodom didn't have a thing to say. I'm talking about the story in its setting is that before any of this happened, God had a plan to judge these folk. Right, the
Yeah.
whole reason that they went down to Sodom was to judge these folk. Right,
Mhm.
and as a stranger living in that area, he was being prosperous, which means that the people of Sodom had given him grace. Right now, what they did to the men when they got there, all is almost inconsequential because they were going to get judged whether they had baked the men cakes or not. God had already planned on judging the place. They could
Mhm.
have went down there and threw the niggas a party. It wouldn't matter.
No, that's what I said. Like it's just to me, it's just a setup out of jealousy. Like Israel does this a lot with kingdoms that are more prosperous than them, are mightier than them.
Yeah.
Like
So this seems like
it's
more of a
jealousy.
favoritism thing than it does necessarily the judgment for an action. Right. It seems like this is more just and it wasn't even. This is why I say it's not even a judgment for an action because again, nobody was trying. Like it's not like Abraham had reached out to Sodom and said, "Hey, give me some help on something. I need X, Y, Z," and they're like, "Nah, we're not helping you." It's not like Lot didn't move down there and was prosperous. So it wasn't that they weren't whatever. God had just planned on judging them.
Yeah, I guess.
Right. And then you just dehumanize the people that you plan on killing. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because what they do immediately following this is atrocious. And God don't judge uh Lot's daughters and Lot. Right? Like God don't if Lot was lying and he really did sleep with his daughters just on some ho-hum shit. Okay. God didn't judge that.
Like he didn't judge Abraham for marrying his own sister or Abraham for marrying his auntie. Like he didn't there wasn't any judgment on them prior to the law and even after the law. Like they still did incestuous things, but they didn't get
They
judged
didn't get
for it.
no judgment. Right, right,
And
right.
then like I think a lot of these stories is just setting up their enemies. Like, you know, it's setting up for people to look at the the enemies, the people who Israel considered their enemies, is just setting it up so that people would think that they deserved what they got.
Right. That
Mm.
that seems a lot, and it's a bad setup. Like that seems a lot more reasonable
Yeah,
than
that's what I was
oh
saying all along, though.
no, I was agreeing. I'm agreeing.
Mhm.
I'm just
Oh,
I just wanted to parse out the fact to show that like there is nothing in the book that they did that was so bad. Right. And so people will make up retrofittingly, like Ezekiel. He's retrofitting, saying this is why they deserve that. But that's not what the story says. That's what Ezekiel said. That's what Ezekiel is saying. God told him. That was a revelation in Ezekiel's day,
I
right?
mean,
But
even I think even if Ezekiel is saying, "Oh, God is saying this is a revelation that God gave me," I think it gives clarity instead of leaving it vaguely. And I think that's one of the reasons why people have been able to say, "Oh, it's because of homosexuality." I actually think that Ezekiel 16 is a very important, um, scripture that a lot of pastors have,
Overlooked.
yeah, and have because they want to, make homosexuality the reason that God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yes. Uh, Yes. But I think Ezekiel is doing the same thing. I think Ezekiel just wants to give a reason, not that this reason is in the story. Like homosexuality is not the reason. Pastors just want to make it the reason. I think Ezekiel just wants to make this the reason, but that reason isn't in the story at all.
No, it's not in the story, but I think you can kind of see it when the story, like the setup is more so focused on hospitality and it's showing that Israel is hospitable, right? You can kind of see the setup in the writing.
Kind of, except for the fact that Sodom is hospitable to Lot.
Showing
Like,
and Lot received grace. Like remember, they were told to choose by this God. Lot chose Sodom.
mm,
Abraham chose the promise, right? So one could look at that as Lot. The reason why Lot was able to live in Sodom, because remember at first before this God told him to choose, and Lot
mm,
goes back to Sodom. Lot ends up getting captured, right?
yes, and then
In
and
Sodom,
Abraham comes
right?
and gets him, and then he chooses to go down to Sodom. Right, but think
Hmm.
about what he said to Abraham. Think about one of the promises that God made to Abraham. I'm going to bless those that bless you. Right, bless those that bless
Hmm.
you and your seed, and curse those that curse you and your seed. Right, Sodom had been a blessing to Lot.
Right.
Right,
Through unspoken grace
right, through an unspoken.
because they
But I mean,
chose
that
the
would be the
Lord.
case. It's not like Sodom talked to God and asked, "Hey, should we be nice to Lot?"
No,
Right.
it's like saying like you you know how that like the children of Israel, like in the story is like they are special people, and everywhere they go they have God's presence with them, right? Like the
Right.
fact that remember when Lot got captured by Lamar,
Mm.
Abraham goes and he gets his own army and
The
goes
ninjas.
down and he fights the war. Who shows up the very next chapter and it's like, hey, that
Melchizedek.
war you won, God gave you that victory,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So
Melchizedek showed up.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
like that just what it's trying to do is show that you know Abraham has that he was already always protected by this God, even when Abraham didn't go to this God. It's like, hey, I need your help getting Lot back.
Right. And
Yeah.
God gave him the victory. Fair. But if God is giving out the graces, if this is the case, that it is because God gave grace that this happened, well, then that means that the people that didn't have that experience, it's because God didn't give them grace. Because God could have given anyone grace. He has
Mhm.
mercy on whom he will.
Right.
Right. Okay. So if by chance people came into Sodom, and we don't see this until they get judged, but if by chance every other human being that ever came through Sodom, they were not gracious to him. The only person they were ever gracious to was Lot. Well, that's because God didn't give them grace.
Right. I
Right.
agree. Yeah. Yeah.
But then to come back and say, oh, well, I'm judging you because I didn't give them grace is wild.
I agree. I agree. That's why I said the story. Like to me, I just see the story as a literary, like trying to set up to show that Israel is more hospitable and didn't deserve, like they deserve the promises. These people they deserve to be destroyed. Like that's how I see.
That's what it is. It's more of a polemic to me than it is necessarily it's a bad literary device. It's not written well,
Yeah.
right? Because you did, and maybe this is because you don't have you're trying to redact the story, keep the story small, um, but you're missing what would be like the plot line. The plot line should be here is what they were doing that's so fucked. This is why I'm judging them, right?
Mhm.
Again, later on, by the time we get to Ezekiel come back and say, see what they did to deserve that was yada yada yada. But but God had to show him that. You know why God had to show him that? Because it wasn't there. Right? God had to speak specifically to him and say, Hey, this is what the problem was. Because when you read it, you don't see that.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting at in that. And God, it just seems like a post hoc rationalization, right? Right. It just seems like it would be no different if somebody said about African American folk, yeah, the reason why y'all was in slavery is because y'all didn't worship Jesus. Okay, okay, guys. Right. That seems like a very post hoc rationalization.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what it seems like is happening here. Just a very, let me give a reason for this. Not that that's in the story. There's nothing in the slavery story that says, and the Africans turned away from God. Right? Like that just ain't there. You can say that after the fact to justify your horrible behavior.
You know, Israel Finkelstein says something like that about even placing Salem, like Melchizedek and Salem, in the story where Abraham went to, fight for Lot back. And he was saying, like, it's like, America naming a slab of land in a pre-Columbian, uh, story about pre-Columbian history, right? And yeah, so like mentioning Salem, which is Jerusalem, at the time when Abraham went to go fight for Lockback. It's like trying to connect to later uh renditions of history early on and trying to show that Abraham had like a connection to the north in the southern traditions, right? And that
Yes.
he was that important. And that's why I was saying like I kind of see I just think this story is one completely made up. Uh
Yes.
and two, like it's just trying to set Israel apart. Like it's trying actually Judah. Like I think it's like it's trying to set them like apart from the rest of the world. Like, oh, they could see, you know, when people were not being hospitable. They knew how to, give to the poor and needy and blah like they they this is why they were chosen and this is why these nations were not. That's what I think. Like I I don't know. And like cuz like just even thinking about the fact that here the God is he's like, "Oh, let me go down." He's like the cry is so loud, right? That's coming from the people, right? Let me go
Mhm.
down and see what's going on. He hears that oh, they're Sodom is doing whatever, you want to say Sodom is doing. Um but he didn't go down and see that Amram married his daddy's sister,
Right.
right?
Right. Oh, right. And think if the who was crying in Sodom and Gomorrah? The Sodomites, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah.
No, I don't know. I don't know if he was trying to say their sin was loud. I don't know. When he said the cry is so loud, I don't know if he was trying to say like their sin was so loud, or what. I don't know if he was talking about actual tears. I don't know.
Yeah, like, and it could be either way. I won't say, but if by chance if it was their sins crying out, sin is the violation of the Torah. There was no Torah. They didn't have a Torah. Like that again, when you try to put these stories with these retrofits, they don't make sense because this is an anachronism. What is sin at this point in life? What is sin?
Right.
Right?
Because
Paul
there's
would
no
say
law.
exactly.
Yeah, but like also we got to keep in mind that this was written like they're writing from in the 7th century, like right.
Right.
Yeah, so
And they're
they're
trying
trying
to
to write like as if, this is at the very beginning of
at
time,
the
but
beginning. Right.
the writer keeps going back and forth between their present time. You know what
How
I'm
they see
saying?
the world right now, right?
Yeah.
Or at that point in the 7th century, right? How do they see
Mhm.
the world in the 7th century
Mhm.
versus what they're saying is going on 700, 800 years prior, right?
Mhm.
And there's these stories just don't gel well, and they don't
Mhm.
gel well because what the fuck is sin? Right. This would be no different than me telling you, man, when Harriet Tubman freed the slaves, man, what it was, she had a Honda Accord that she would put the people in the Honda Accord. No, she didn't. Right? Like, what's a Honda Accord? She wouldn't know anything about that. She doesn't have like that doesn't make sense in that story. Now, but if you tell it to a kid, I guess maybe it's like, Oh, I know what a Honda is. I know what a slave is. I guess I could see putting them, but it's an anachronism. It doesn't make sense for that. Doesn't fit there. That doesn't go there. Right? And when we look back at it, because we understand what sin is, right? We go, oh yeah, they shouldn't have done that. That was a sin. But if they don't know Yahweh, one, they don't know His law. Two, again, Paul would say, where there is no law, there is no sin. They don't have a law. What was the sin? Right. But when
Yeah.
you try to, okay. Anyway, I wanted to read y'all Judges 19.
Okay.
Go back to the top of Genesis 19. Read me like 5 verses.
The two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. He said, "Please, my lords, turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you can rise early and go your way." They said, "No, we will spend the night in the square." But he urged them strongly, so they turned aside to him and entered his house. And he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate.
All right,
But
cool.
be okay.
All right, all right. And they turned aside and went thither. I'm at Judges 19:15. All right. And this is the Levite and his concubine. So it's two people. All right, okay. All right. And they turned aside thither to go in and to lodge in Gibeah. And when they went in, he sat down in the street of the city, for there was no man that took them into the house to lodge. And behold, there came an old man from the work out in the field at even, which was also of Mount Ephraim, and he sojourned in Gibeah. But the men of the place were Benjaminites, right? And when he had lifted up his eyes, he saw a wayfaring man in the streets of the city. And the old man said, "Whither goest thou, and whence comest thou?" And he said unto him, "We are passing from Bethlehem, Judah, towards the side of Mount Ephraim. From thence I am, and went to Bethlehem, Judah. But I'm now going to the house of the Lord, and there is no man that received me in the house. Yet there is both straw and provender for our asses, and there is bread and wine also for me and for my handmaid, um, and for the young men which is with thy servants. There is no want of anything." And the old man said, "Peace be with thee, howsoever. Let all thy wants lie upon me, only lodge not in the street." So he brought them into his house and gave them provender and unto his asses, and they washed their feet and did eat and drink. All right, read me the next couple of verses.
But before the men lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people to the last man surrounded the house. And they called to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we may know them." Lot
Stop.
went out.
Stop. All right, 1922. Now, as they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men in the city, certain sons of Belial, beset the house round about and beat on the door and spake to the master of the house, saying, the old man saying, "Bring forth the men that came into thine house that we may know them." Or that we may know him. I'm sorry, that we may know him. Next verse.
Lot went out of the door hold on. Lot went out of the door to the men, shut the door after him, and said, "I beg you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Look, I have two daughters who have not known a man. Let me bring them out to you, and do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof."
Stop. And the man, the master of the house, went out unto them and said unto them, "Nay, my brethren, I pray you, do not so wickedly. Seeing this man is come into mine house, do not this folly. Behold, here is my daughter, a maiden, and his concubine, so two girls. I will bring them out and humble ye them, and do what thou will do what seemeth good unto you. But unto this man, do not such a vile thing."
Yeah.
Right? So literally, word for word, do not do so wickedly. Do not do so wickedly. Right? Here are these two girls. Here are these two girls. Right?
But I think like for me, what I see, right, like in Judges 19, the issue is they're coming up against a Levi, right? And it's the Benjamites in this story, right? The
Uh,
Benjamites is now the Benjamites is uh Judah's enemy, right? And so they're coming up against the Levite. And so that's the sin, right? And then in the story of Lot, of Sodom and Gomorrah, it's um the foreigners, right?
right.
And not showing like wanting to not doesn't not wanting the foreigners there, and like I see the theme of this like it's hospitality, right? Just looking at how it's built up, and then if you look at from Judges 19 to Judges 21, the issue is like the Benjamites, and it's setting the like the Benjamites are the enemies there. They're savages, even though they're of Israel. You know what I'm saying? And then like to me, these stories are just stories to like shit on their enemies, shit on the kingdoms that they don't like.
Well, Benjamin was a part of Judah at the time.
Well, of Israel, like, but they didn't like Benjamin. Like Benjamin was seen as the
the little
the
brother.
tribe, like they didn't even want to give their wives. They're like, we can't. They killed most of them,
Yeah,
and they're like, we're not giving our daughters to them, right? We got to find another tribe that didn't show up and find
yeah,
wives for them, right?
right.
Like I just see it as a way to shit on the whoever they saw as against them.
Yes, but the reason that I bring this up, and the reason that I'm trying to show this duplication is this is just a trope. This is a trope for that reason, right? When you want to shit on the enemy, here's the story you tell,
Yeah,
right? The same story that happened. I mean, damn near word for word, right? To say if you read this in the King James, the borrowed sentences are long, right? That don't do this wickedness. Don't do this wickedness. Two people come, they stand in the square of the city. Two people come, they in the square of the city. The old man come out and say, hey, come to my house. Lot come out and say, come to my house. They get in there, they make them unleavened bread. Well, I think one of them they make unleavened bread. I think the one in Genesis, they make unleavened bread specifically, right? I don't think
mm,
they make, I think it just says they eat and drink over in in Judges. That's right. That they eat and drink over in Judges. In Genesis, they make unleavened bread specifically, right? So, no problem. Either way, they wash feet, they eat and drink. They wash feet, they have unleavened bread. As they're having unleavened bread, right before they go to sleep, here come all the people of the city, right? Everybody, all the sons of Belial, all the men of the city, right? They beat on the door. They say, "Send us the man that we may know him." They say, "Send us the man that we may know him," right? The old man of the house goes out and says, "Hey, don't do this. Take these two girls." Lot goes out and says, "Don't do this. Take these two girls." So these stories overlay perfect, but the goal of the story, not only are the words of the story the same, the goal of the story is the same. The only thing I'm doing is I'm just swapping out Sodom for Benjamin. But the
right.
judgment is different, right? The judgment in Sodom, of course, is burnt the whole city down, right? The
Mhm.
judgment for Benjamin was to kill all of them but 600.
Right.
Right? But they're using this trope to show that, okay, no, that's not how I want to say that. They're using the trope as okay, this is what happens to the bad guys, right? This is what happens to the bad guys. And it doesn't really matter what the quote unquote sin is. Doesn't really matter, right? It's switch and swap. It's the same fucking story, right? You're just trying to show, hey, this is what happens to the bad guys. And so there is a version of this story that's Benjamin. And that was a tradition. That's what happened to Benjamin. There's a tradition. This is what happened to Sodom, right? But it would be wild weird if both of these happened. Now I know we're assuming that the story of Sodom and Gomorrah is an allegory, right, or a myth of sorts, right?
Mhm.
And more than likely the one in Benjamin is too, right? But it would be wild weird if both of these were true. How just right like that? It happened just like that in both stories. That
Yeah.
doesn't seem right.
All right.
Right? Yeah. That's all I want to show about that. Did we finish 19?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We got.
Yeah.
I think talking about Lot sleeping with his daughters. Like again, it's just setting up like why the Moabites and why the Ammonites are, you know, deserve to be,
Treated the way they treated.
annihilated. Um, they it's crazy. Like that's what I'm saying. Like to call down judgment on them here. The law hasn't been like if you ask somebody, if you were to ask a Christian or an Israelite, why didn't God judge Abraham, Amram? everybody else for marrying their family, right?
Yeah.
But then this is like important here to say that the Ammonites and the Moabites deserve to be annihilated, right? They're the shameful descendants of the Israelites, like Lot's line, right?
Yeah.
And that's important enough to put in the book. But there is no law, right, against it at this time. That's why I say it's just like all I see these stories are is just like setting up. These are why these people, because it even mentions like Canaan in such a way. It's like in the beginning of Genesis, not the beginning of Genesis, but like when Abraham leaves Ur, and when it starts talking about Canaan, it kind of mentions them. There were no such and such in Canaan at this time, or Sodom had not done what Sodom the sin yet, right? And it's
Right.
like
Right.
setting them
It's a precursor. Right.
yeah, yeah, which lets you know that this is being written at a much later date,
Yes.
right? And it's like this is why these people deserve to be wiped off the face of the earth.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. You're
yeah,
rationalizing bad behavior.
yeah.
I've been talking about it all week. You're forgiving God of his sins. But just but in that forgiveness, you're you're showing a lack of justice, right? Because if it were just to do the thing, if it was objectively wrong to do X, well, they did X, right? They did it right here. You can read it
And
right here.
yeah, and
Yeah.
all of it is for Abraham. Like even like Abraham, it's talking about like verse 27 like trips me out because it's like Abraham got up in the morning, the best part of waking up.
It's seeing Sodom fucked up. What?
Like what? Like that's literally how that reads. And then it's like, and God remembered Abraham and protected Lot. Like everything Lot got, the grace, him being able to be wealthy in Sodom, him being protected was because of Abraham. Like that's what it's trying to show. Like it's just ugh. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and you see that as the literary device that it is, right? Like I'm trying to put something in your head for you to like almost subconsciously, like right, like Abraham was so good. He walked out with his coffee mug, looked out over the plains, barbecue, right? Like there's a
Oh,
city of
burn
folk,
burning human flesh, fire and brimstone. Like what?
right? But Abraham just walked out to see the glorious sunrise, right? Like what? Like this is some kind of literary device to show, okay, this God favors these people, but it's just a literary trope. Like this is the indoctrination, right? Because now you're getting this understanding about Abraham that Abraham is the good guy, no matter what Abraham actually do. Abraham just pimped his wife out twice, right? His wife
Uh-huh.
slash sister,
Yep. His
right?
wife slash sister, like he like God didn't say Abraham, that's your sister, dog.
You're pimping out your sister wife.
But not even that. Like when he married, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna bless her womb. I'm gonna I'm gonna send your blessing through your sister, dog.
That's
I'm gonna
some
bless
business.
the womb of your sister. You're gonna have like everybody,
Trillions of kids.
like
Six
literally
nine God shit right there, bro.
grafted in incestual great 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 grandkids of Abraham and Sarah. Like that's wild.
And those are the children of promise.
The children of the promise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ain't that wild? That's why
That's
I said
wild business.
good is bad, bad is good. Like you literally have to be like, you have to see stuff like the opposite way and be like, yep, I'm okay with that.
I'm
My
okay
my
with that.
my my great great granddaddy had kids with his sister, and that's how it's supposed to be.
And that's the way it goes.
And everybody else that does it deserves hell. Like
Hell and brimstone.
yeah,
Human barbecue.
it's crazy.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. And that's what those kinds of setups, those kinds of stories are just used to rationalize the mistreatment of a group of people, to rationalize being okay with their like last night when we was talking, and I know we this ain't even necessarily a part of what we're talking about today. But remember last night we was talking to that lady, Precious, and she was talking about
Oh
how
yeah,
when the children starve, that's their will,
yeah.
right? You have to rationalize that kind of pain, right? And
Mhm.
oh well, they just must not know God well. They yeah, yeah, they just must not know God like that. Because if they knew God, that wouldn't have happened to them.
They
Nobody that
like
knows God goes hungry.
yeah, they know that mess ain't right. Like we were talking to somebody on Ria's live, and as soon as they realized, they went and looked up what devoted to destruction meant. Like after we told him, and then he's come back. And he's like, "Oh, can I read you what I found?" It says that these people were so sinful that they were beyond re- repair. Like they couldn't come back. Like they were savages. I said, like literally, we're talking about human sacrifice. Like, we're talking about even if you want to say that he said war. He said, what the words that stick out to me is war and plunder and spoil. We're talking about human sacrifice. And you have a claim that your God is the objective moral standard. Like your God is all good, right?
Right.
And that you're you need this God to be morally superior. So like you focusing on plunder, spoil, and then going to find an article that says that these people deserve to be these kids, these young girls deserve to be offered up as human sacrifices to your God, or even if they were captives, like what the fuck? Like that doesn't change a thing. We're still talking about human sacrifice.
Human sacrifice. In the words of Dave Chappelle, of course they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
Oh my god.
Yeah, man. Like that. But when you take on that as a rationale for the world, then there is no atrocity that you cannot forgive. Right? There's no atrocity that you cannot. That's not the word I want to use. Forgive ain't the word, but like synchronize and make okay. Apologize for is maybe the word I'm looking for. Like there is no limit to the depravity because you can always just rationalize it. Oh, well, they deserved it because they I don't know, they didn't worship God the way He wanted to be worshipped. So of course He can unalive all of them and bash their babies and great women and sacrifice them. I'm like, well, what's wrong with that? Wait, what? Like what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So
Yeah, and these are the kind of
did
stories I'm
Sodom
dealing
get judged or did they get overthrown? Like why is it using the word over like so it was that when God destroyed the cities of the plain, God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow. When he overthrew the cities of in which Lot had settled. Like it's just the language that's used. Like were they judged or did they get overthrown?
with. Hell if I know. Hell if I know.
That's why I said this is about their freaking jealousy or like of whoever if there was a historical Sodom and Gomorrah, I think that like it just
Right.
reminds me of how they talk about Tyre and Babylon and their wealth, and they constantly they want it. God's gonna take it. He's gonna give it to the Israelites.
And it reminds me of how they currently speak about the people of Palestine.
Yeah,
Right? Oh, remember what they did? God got to judge them for that. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, that kind of thinking is real because there is no atrocity that you cannot accept once you dehumanize folk. That's how the Holocaust happened, man. Right? The man went around telling people that these folk weren't human.
hmm
They deserve whatever you give them. Right? Once you dehumanize folk and just turn them into, oh, they're just so wicked. Come on, man. Come
yeah,
on, dog. Like you're just dehumanizing folk. You just dehumanizing folk, and that's harmful thinking. Like that's harmful because even if you don't participate in the thing, you justify it.
hmm
You won't fight against it, right? You won't fight against it because, yeah, that's just God's judgment. It just is what it is. So you won't stand up and say, hey, that's not right to do. That's
if
not
they
right.
will allow, like we watched videos on Ria's Live this morning again. Like she shared a video where a preacher is literally doing the do in front of his church members with his with the women members. It like literally she's on the altar in her bra and panties. He takes another one's panties off. She lays on top of him. He smacks her butt on the altar, and the people in the church, they're like, "Amen, amen, amen." And I'm like, "What the, like, what do you, like, what do you have to do to get your mind to the point to where you're like, that's God?" And then after he gets done with her, another woman comes out of the audience. He makes her kneel on her knees and he hock tours in her mouth twice. And she gets up and goes back to the congregation like hallelujah. Like what has to be in your mind that you that this is right and because this is what a God said. This is why I say that these type of stories right here, if they will justify, if they will rationalize and justify with why Sodom deserved to be destroyed, why the Canaanites deserve to be destroyed, if they could get to this point and justify this, then their mind is being controlled. They don't know right from wrong. They've already given their power or their will over to the man or the woman who's claiming to be the stead of their God, and they can do things like that to them, and they won't know if it's right or wrong.
What happened? What happened? What?
Yeah, I put the video in the off topic. Like, if you watch it, just be ready because like I was mad. I was mad for a good 2 minutes because I'm like, how do you get there?
Like this. This how you start. This how you start. What? Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay. Here is the worst. This is what I mean by this. If
Actually, I
you
think we
play
can
that,
show it since this is YouTube.
huh?
I think we can show it since this is
Oh, don't
YouTube.
show it. Don't show it. Don't show it. Because maybe we want to monetize this later. They might be like, "We
Well,
not gonna
yeah,
monetize."
yeah, that's true.
But it's in the Discord. I'm gonna check. But this is how you get because if you show that to a believer, they might go, "That's wrong. That's not real Christianity." But they won't do anything to stop it. You
No.
get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like they might disagree. They might go, "Well, my pastor would never do that." Right? Until he does it. Until she does it. Until they do it. Right? But you won't raise up to stop it because
Mm-mm.
it's in the name of God.
Yep.
Right? That's crazy.
Yep. That's why I said like this literally. All I see like it takes the mind. It gives, and I can't find the right words yet to say it, but the influence belongs to the one who's willing this the words of this God.
You ever I ever tell you about and we've gone over today, but what a good conversation. But I ever tell you about Daniel Dennett,
Mm-mm.
Dr. Dennett. He was at one point known as one of the four horsemen of new atheism.
Mm-mm.
Anyway, he looks just like Charles Darwin. If you ever see a picture of Charles Darwin, he looks like the spitting image of Charles Darwin. Kind of round white man with a big white beard. He looked like Santa Claus with no hat, basically. And but he's a brilliant man, and he's well, I should say, and he's a brilliant man. His official title was he's a philosopher of science. So he has two PhDs, one in philosophy, and I think two in evolutionary biology. But he does this teaching, or he did a lecture called "Religion in the Wild," and he talks about this certain fluke. It's called a little worm that gets into that only can reproduce in the stomach of a cat. Right, that's the only place they can reproduce for whatever reason. And so, how the fluke survives is it infects mice. And so, it gets into mice's brains and basically turns off their fear receptors. So, mice just aren't afraid. And so, they just walk in front of cats, right? They just walk in front of cats. And the cats, of course, are like free lunch, right? Cat eats the mouse. The fluke gets into the cat's stomach, reproduces, the cycle continues, right? Here's another one, another kind of fluke that actually infects the. They can only reproduce in sheep stomachs, and so this fluke infects ants. And what it does is it causes ants to, for no reason, climb blades of grass, to be at the top of a blade of grass, so that when sheep come and eat the grass, they can reproduce in the stomach of sheep. And he says that's what religion does, right? It basically kind of drives your brain to like, oh, this is okay, right? Yeah, this is all right. Like, there's nothing to worry about here, right? And just kind of hijacks your. I think it says your hippocampus, but anyway, it hijacks your mind to thinking, oh, yeah, this is fine. There's nothing wrong with this, and so that it can reproduce, right? Like that, he treats religion like a meme of reproduction. But anyway, I'm gonna send you that video. It's really quite interesting. But
Yeah,
I think that's what's happening.
that sounds like it explains exactly what I'm having difficulty articulating because yeah,
Yeah, he
that's how
he
I
does a
see
good
it.
job explaining. I'm gonna put that video in your Discord. I gotta find it again, but yeah,
Well, I appreciate that. Did you have anything else you want to add before we shut
I think
down?
that's gonna do it. You probably need some sleep, and I'm just getting up,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. I'm about to find a live to listen to and knock out. I'm going to dinner with my daughters in about 6 hours. So
Dinner with the daughters. Okay, all right, cool. Well, thank you guys so much for being a part of this today. I really enjoyed this. I will start at chapter 20 next go around. Do you
we'll probably
want? Do
need to
you
do
want to get
20 and
that book?
21.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you
Yeah.
want to get that book?
Hmm.
That one book?
Yeah. Yeah.
When you want to start on it?
Um, it's probably going to take about a week for it to get here because it ain't. You can't get it off of
Can't get it
Amazon.
online.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let me
Um,
know. I need to go ahead and order mine in. Okay. Because I
okay.
want to read it wrong. All right. Yeah. That's sweet. All right. Thank you.
All right. I'll see
Love
y'all
you guys.
later on.
All right.
Have a good one.
You too.
Thank y'all for watching. Please remember to like, share, turn on your notifications, and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.